Top this off with that putrid smell, and I became so stressed out. I started picking up more hours at work so I didn't have to be in that house. It seemed like whenever I was there, I just felt horrible, like all the bricks and boards had some kind of hold over me. Then one evening, I had an experience that brought me to my wits' end. I was fast asleep in my bed when I had this weird dream. I saw two little girls, about 4 and 6, running down a long hallway. One had matted blonde hair and a ripped-up nightgown. Tears streamed down her face, but she tried to keep quiet. The other had short brown hair and a sense of bravery about her. While afraid herself, she wasn't going to let the other child know it, imploring her to keep running and not make any sounds. They ran and ran, eventually reaching a door at the end of a hallway. The older child reached for the handle, confident that freedom was in their grasp. Unfortunately, as the door opened, someone blocked their path. It was a tall and very scary-looking man. I couldn't see his face, but the girls' horrified expressions were enough. The man reached out for them, squashing any hopes of escaping. Before I could see what happened next, I awoke in a cold sweat, unable to catch my breath. Thinking it was just a nightmare, I got up to get myself a sip of water. But as I opened my bedroom door, I got the biggest shock of my life, as the same two girls from my dream ran right past me holding hands. They made it to the end of the hallway before disappearing, right before they were able to reach the same door from my dream. I instantly dropped to my knees and screamed, so overcome with grief that I was now crying myself. I called my parents and asserted that something was going on in this house. At this point, my mom suggested that there had to be a carbon monoxide leak or mold making me sick. I bought it, so we decided that it was time to remodel. The house needed work, so why not do it instead of being poisoned to death? I ended up taking a couple days off work and my dad bought all the supplies. We were ready to go and start with the dilapidated old basement. Down there was nothing but spider webs and a few old Christmas trees. I had high hopes that the renovation would take care of all the problems I'd been having. It was going to be hard work, but I'm sure in the end I would have a normal place to live. Or so I thought. As we started digging into the dirt floor, we found something that no words in my vocabulary could describe. Below the dirt were hundreds upon hundreds of bones. At first we thought it could be an animal's bones. My uncle had a few pets. But the more we dug, the more horrors we unearthed. Skulls, human spinal cords, and even clothing. Tattered and dirty outfits that belonged to children. The smell from before also got worse, so bad that we couldn't keep from gagging. Once out of the basement, my dad didn't hesitate to call the police. Both of us sat silent while waiting, unsure of what to do. Once the cops arrived, they couldn't believe what was down there. Within minutes, my home was thrown into utter chaos, with what seemed like the entire police force surrounding the area. Detectives and coroners filled the basement. We watched in shock as they carried out 15 body bags, with that putrid smell permeating from each one. I guess I know where it came from now. Eventually, an officer told us that this was an active crime scene and that we had to vacate the premises. Back at my parents', we were still so shocked. What was the story here? Why were all those people dead? I'll never forget that evening. As we all sat in the living room, the news came on and there was my house. The reporter standing outside said that more than 15 people were killed and buried here, mostly little girls. The police were unsure of how they died, but within a few days, the information would rush in like a flood. After DNA tests and combing every inch of the property, they concluded that my uncle was a serial killer. For years, he had kidnapped kids and done unspeakable things to them. News vans filled the driveway of our family's home, demanding us to come out and provide some explanation. My parents were inconsolable. They couldn't believe my uncle could hurt anyone, much less a child. My dad took it really hard, in disbelief that his older brother was capable of such atrocities. I couldn't understand it either. That man babysat me and was present at every gathering. It was safe to say that I had years of therapy ahead of me. As for the house, we obviously had it demolished. How could someone live in a place that laid claim to such horror? There was also one other thing I was sure of now. I never believed in the paranormal or ghosts, but the voices I heard, pleading for help, the little girls I saw, terrified and running for their lives, my uncle slaughtered them all, and they were trying to let me know. As time went on, we moved far away. My dad ended up retiring early and became a recluse. Who could blame him? As for me, I finished school and started my career, but I'll never forget the notorious serial killer that was my uncle. Follow for more.